Call the
See
meeting
what
to
I mean?
order
I
at
know.
7:03. Mr. Darby, welcome back.
Thank you.
Would you
Glad
like
to be
lead
here.
us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Sure, I will.
Great.
Yeah.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Laurel, is there a second?
I'll second it, Meg Scata.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Lavoy, is there a second?
I'll second.
Lauren?
Just a note to Elliot, there are 2 corrections which Laurel sent to me, and I'll send it on to him at the time on the executive session for, I believe the 10th was incorrect, so I'll get it to Elliot and that'll be corrected.
It's the 19th, I think.
All in favor?
One on the 19th. Oh, yeah.
Just want to say I'm glad to see that Big E trip is on. I hope it works out for them.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right, audience of citizens. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board? Okay. Student representative report. Hello.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I had to be unmuted. It's great to be back. Hope you're all doing well. The updates that I have for tonight is that school's been going great so far. Everybody's happy to be back in the building with less restrictions while still staying safe. And last week we had a mini 3-day spirit week to kick off the school year. And we had an outdoor pep rally where we honored the... Do you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You're good.
You're good.
Okay.
Just
Made you bigger.
Sorry. Where we honored the fall sports teams and we had a little welcome back field day. And this weekend, a cappella and a soloist from the band will be performing at Bushnell as part of the 9/11 Remembrance Tribute. And I know that it'll be one of their biggest performances and they've been working really hard and practicing a lot lately. And then something else I just wanted to mention is that the Portland Middle and High School Instagram page that's run by Mrs. Miller, who works in the library, that's also started up. She's done an amazing job with it. It just includes users' updates and photos from school. And if anybody wants to follow it, the handle is @PortlandCT712. And then finally, as of right now, I'm still the only Board of Ed rep, student rep. And I'm hoping in the coming weeks that I'll have another student join beside me, but we haven't found one yet.
All right. Well, we appreciate your report. Glad to hear things are going well. We'll move on to communications and updates.
Okay.
Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you very much. All right, so I have a few, well, more than a few, a couple things I want to make sure that you're aware of. First, Jonna Cunningham has accepted a position as a lead teacher in the Berlin Public Schools. I included her letter of resignation in your communications packet. I wish Jonna really well. She has worked very hard to become an administrator, worked on her own I-2 internship, all of the work, and you know, it's sad to see her go, but this is a really good next step for her. I wish her well, and you know, I'm going to stay in touch with her. She has our cell phone numbers. I'm sure she'll be calling regularly with how do I handle this situation. But she's going to be a great school principal someday, and I really wish Jonna well. She's done some great work with us over her 19 years here. So, moving on from all of our resignations, you know, we talked last time about the folks who have left us. I included in your packet a quick biography of all of our new teachers. And I hope you had a chance to read through the qualifications and the background of the individuals who we've brought on board this year. What a remarkable group. I mean, in terms of the background, the qualifications, we have folks who are doctors in here. It really is a remarkable group of new teachers that we have with us today. So I'm going to ask Dylan. The new teachers each year, as part of their convocation, one of their tasks is to make a new teacher orientation video. So I'm going to show you the new teacher orientation video and let you take a look at it. And then certainly you're more than welcome to peruse the biography of this impressive group as you watch the video. So Dylan, maybe we can show that new teacher video for us.
Yep, just make sure I get the sound up.
Okay.
Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky finger culture from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on the slow bus to China. Tell me where in the world is
Portland, back in New Jersey.
there's so in South Korea? We get money from right on the the red seas of Greenland. We'll swinging the blues. Well, they never Arkansas, her steel. We come from the jungle. Tell me
In the world is
Portland, back in New Jersey.
from Nashville to Norway, Thailand to Zimbabwe, Chicago to Czechoslovakia, and back. Well, she'll ransack Pakistan and run a scan in Scandinavia. Then she'll stick 'em up down under and go to King Market first. She was doing this in misdemeanor when she stole the beans from Lima. Tell me where in the world is?
Portland, back in New Jersey.
Tell me where in the world? Tell me where can she be? Ooh, that's why the Titanic is on the other side. And Molly to Molly, Ohio, Ohio. She flies around the globe and she'll live in every nation. She's a double-dealing diva with a taste for thievery. Her itinerary's loaded up with moving violations. Tell me where in the world is?
Portland, back in New Jersey.
Where in the world is?
Portland, back in New Jersey.
Tell me where in the world is?
Portland, back in New Jersey.
Where in the world is?
Portland, back in New Jersey.
Where in the world is?
Portland, back in New Jersey.
Where in the world is?
Portland, back in New Jersey.
Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky finger culture from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on the slow bus to China. Tell me where in the world is?
Portland, back in New Jersey.
There's so in South Korea. We get money from right on the red seas of Greenland. Swinging the blues. Well, they never Arkansas, her steel. We come from the jungle. Tell me
in the world is
Portland, back in New Jersey.
from Nashville to Norway, Thailand to Zimbabwe, Chicago to Czechoslovakia, and back.
Cute.
Yeah, pretty good, right?
Very good.
Yeah.
So those are all of our new teachers. They put that video together. And again, take a look at their bios. I just can't tell you how impressed I am with the qualifications of each of these individuals. I met with all of them over the summer. They're all excited. They're here for the right reasons, and they're going to do a great job with our students. So I'm very happy to welcome these folks to Portland, and certainly hope they stay here for a long time. The good news is, of course, that we're fully staffed with one exception, right? Bus drivers, which I'm going to get to in a bit. We're having some serious transportation issues that I need to bring you up to speed on. And we were unable to find a .6 French teacher. So what we've done is one of our teachers at the middle school is dual certified Spanish and French. We're paying her a 6th section, so that's one of the 3 sections that the French teacher would teach. And then the other 2 for our upper level students in French, we have them in the Connecticut Virtual High School. So the students are still getting French. We were able to cover it with the online program through the Connecticut Virtual High School. And Ms. Juncker is dual certified French Spanish. She's picking up one of the French sections at the high school. The position's still posted. Hopefully we'll find someone, but French is one of those content areas that is very hard to staff, especially at the .6 part-time level. So we're going to have to take a hard look at that position over the coming months as we make decisions about whether to increase it to full-time to potentially attract someone. But ideally, what we really need at the high school is a combination of Spanish and French. But again, these are unicorns that are very difficult to find. There are certain content areas in teaching that are difficult to fill, and that's one of them. So with that one exception, the .6 French, we are fully staffed in all of our other positions, which is great news.
Charles, just a quick question. If we were to hire a full-time French teacher who only had a .6 job at the high school, would we consider offering French to the lower elementary grades as an alternative? I've heard that question asked by parents, to teach younger children, immerse them in some foreign languages.
It's an interesting idea. Let me think it over a little bit. There's that, and then there's also the possibility of maybe, if we brought it to full-time, some of that, or having that teacher teach in the virtual high school. If we assign a teacher to that,
So that's another way to.
another potential way to do it. But
Perfect.
I just couldn't hear the question. What was the question?
So the idea would be if we brought the French teacher up to full-time and there were only 3 courses to be taught at the high school, could we have the French teacher teach some immersion programs at the lower grade levels?
Oh.
It's an interesting idea. I haven't really, thought that one through enough yet, but certainly I think as part of the budget development process,
Right.
Ms. Lawson and I are going to be taking a look at it. Because, I think the reality is French is hard enough to fill, but certainly at a part-time level, it's next to impossible. So we're going to have to think about what we're going to do with that position. But that's a good idea and might be in the cards, for sure. Alrighty, so I also included in your packet some of our teachers' years of service. I'd like to take a look. We have Hope Larson, Krista Larson, Michelle Wright, Tony M. Bankowski, Christina Kelly, and Linda Martin have finished their 10th year with us. Dave Opazinski and Natasha Diston, 15 years. Sharon Fuller, Steve Bankston, Janine Baldwin, Michelle Stotler, and Catherine Tomlinson, 20 years. Karen Rads is at 30 years, and at 35 years, Lisa Kaczynski. So these folks have stayed with us, and certainly appreciate their years of service, and extended our appreciation on behalf of the board to those individuals. Okay. So I did include in your packet an update on enrollment. So if you took a look at it, the numbers are down. Not entirely surprisingly, we have seen a downward trend in enrollment over the years. I can give you a little bit of a sense. The real surprise in this was how low the kindergarten class came in. We only have 77 students in our kindergarten class. We were wondering if last year parents had redshirted their kindergarten students for pandemic-related reasons, and we were expecting to see a bump in first grade as students came back, or potentially kindergarten as parents held their students back and enrolled them later. That didn't happen. So that was the first surprise that we take a look at when we see our enrollment figures. The other surprise, of course, comes in at the high school side. So more of our students ended up moving on from Portland out of the middle school. Specifically, in last year's 8th grade class, we had 8 students go to Mercy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 17 students go to Vinyl Tech. 2 students to a VOAG school. 3 students to Xavier, and then 1 student to the Hartford Academy of the Arts, and 1 student transferred to Manchester High School. So the freshman class is at 78, minus those students who have gone to other schools. Now, we do see students come back from these placements, so over time, as students get into those schools and make decisions about whether they missed Portland or it wasn't what they thought, we have seen students come back. But those are the numbers we're looking at now. Just for a little bit more context, at Valley View, from last year to this year, we're down 32 students. At Gildersleeve, we're up 7 students. At Brownstone, we're up 9 students. At Portland Middle School, we're up 1 student. And at Portland High School, year over year, we're down 37 students. So overall, it's a net decrease of 52 students from this year, from last year to this year. This is important information, especially with respect to the work that our facilities committee is doing. Meg and Dave and I are on that committee, and one of the very important reports that we're going to need to do this year is an enrollment study. We're going to need to have, it's not something we should do in-house. We're going to need to have a professional vendor come in and do a 5 to 10 year look at housing starts, birth rates, and what the size of our schools are going to be going forward, which is going to be absolutely essential in planning that the facilities committee takes a look at. As the numbers indicate, that the numbers are going down, and that does have implications in terms of staffing and facilities and delivery services. So we're going to watch these numbers carefully. I think you're going to hear a lot more about it over the year as we engage in the ed spec studies and the enrollment studies that are going to inform the work of our facilities committee.
Charles, do you have any information about these kindergarten and first grade numbers? Like, do you have a sense if this is a reflection of your children in our community, or if this is related to homeschool numbers going up, or families choosing private school options, or other alternatives? Do you have a sense of that, or is there a way to gather that information?
I've got that is going to be answered as part of an enrollment study. I don't know if that. We haven't seen a significant increase in the number of homeschool requests this year. We had less than 6 over the summer. I had asked Meg, and she said that's about consistent with what we have during a year. She's been here long enough to see those come in and receive those requests. That's a small number. I mean, if it were 25, 30 people asking for homeschool, we would ask, is it related to COVID? Is it other things? But that's not it. That number at kindergarten was very, very surprising, right? And I think we have to take a deep dive into that. We really need a professional vendor to come in and look at the housing market, look at the birth rates, look at the trends, look at buildable land in the town, and help us understand whether that trend is going to continue. And we're going to continue to see classes of under 75 students for the foreseeable future or not. And of course, based on that, we're going to have to plan. So I don't have a hard and fast answer that I can point to. I think it's probably a combination of things. But overall, even nationwide, we are seeing a decrease in the number of students.
What's the number of open choice seats this year that we've filled?
I believe we're at, I think it's 60, but we also have 5 kindergarten, and we get additional funding for kindergarten students as well. I don't have the exact number with me.
So it's 60 plus 5, or it's 60 and that includes 5?
No, that includes the 5. We just get additional $4,500 per student for the kindergarten kids.
Above the, because we're in the 8, I was going to say we're in the 8,000
Yep.
range now, right?
We get 8,000
So
per
what's our percent, like 8% or?
No, 4%.
Oh, we're only, okay, 4%.
But that's the
That's
for
that
the
range
max.
for the, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it's better than last year.
Well, it's more, right?
Yep.
We opened more seats. In the lower grades, was it, that we did?
Yep. We'll get the
Yeah.
final number on October 1st, so I
October
can
1st.
better
Oh,
say
cool.
it then.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna watch those numbers carefully. Certainly, again, like I said, the work of our facilities committee is absolutely going to be informed by the recommendations I'm going to make. Are we need a good look. We shouldn't be waiting year to year with bated breath. I understand last year was unique because of the pandemic and we didn't know, but these numbers are surprising. I think they jumped off the page at us, and we have to consider, is this a blip or is this a long-term trend? And then, of course, the implications of that trend are going to become apparent as we plan budgets and facilities and staffing and everything else that drives the delivery of services.
So the kids that chose to go to different high schools, is that about in line with what we usually see, or is that more?
A little higher, particularly at Vinyl. We saw probably, I'd say, a half dozen more students go to Vinyl this year than historically. Right in line with what we would see at Mercy and Xavier in terms of year to year, but the increase I see here is Vinyl.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Two more things. We are at a critical stage, and I'm about to send an email out to the community tomorrow, and this is with respect to transportation. We are down 3 drivers. 1 driver just put in her letter of resignation effective September 30th, and our 2 in-house drivers are day-to-day at this point for various reasons. So that, in addition to what we experience on a day-to-day basis with bus drivers calling out sick, puts us down somewhere between 4 to 6 drivers a day. It's not good, and it is incredibly disruptive when that happens, and everybody in the entire district has to scramble to cover routes, to communicate what's happening, and do our best to make sure that we get our students to and from school safely and expeditiously. I know there's a lot of frustration out there. I spoke with John Hipshire at M&J today. He told me that the good news is that they've recruited and are in the process of training 4 new drivers for Portland. Mm-hmm. The problem, and this is a statewide problem, is that the amount of time it takes to complete that training, licensing, and credentialing is somewhere between 8 to 12 weeks. So we're not going to see those drivers until, at best, the end of November, December. So we're scrambling right now. And it's very difficult, and I know there's a lot of frustration out there. Believe me, I pull my hair out at the end of every day waiting for that call from Nancy to hear what bus routes are collapsed, how we're piling kids on different routes, and that makes the buses go a lot longer. I mean, it can double or triple the amount of time that the kids are on the buses if there are more students and more stops that we have to make. I wish I had an easy answer to this, folks. I wish I could say, have these buses. I would get my CDL myself, and I've thought of it. If it didn't take 8 to 12 weeks, I mean, but I just want you to know we're in really rough shape. I am going to put an email out to the parents tomorrow, explaining what's happening and asking for everybody to be patient. And then my only plea to the community is, I'm not joking. If anybody is considering a career change, or if anybody knows anybody that's looking for a good job, please consider being a bus contractor. M&J will take you up immediately. So I'm going to include information. I know M&J is out there actively recruiting. They've put full-page ads in the River East and other newspapers. They're doing everything they can, but it's not good. I just want to call it what it is. We're in a tough spot, and it's a function of the lack of drivers.
And it's not just Portland, it's
It's
statewide.
statewide.
And it's, John from M&J was on NPR speaking about the process and how, they're recruiting everywhere and anywhere they can, but it's right across the board. The correct schools are all face the same thing,
Yeah.
getting kids to school.
The only thing we can do, and we do, is we've centralized our communication system now. So we're asking Nancy Bordenero to notify Nancy Bakos in central office by 12:30, 1 o'clock every day, so that by 1:30, parents on routes that are being affected can expect an email and a voice message saying, we've collapsed bus routes 6 and 4, so your kids are going to be on the bus potentially up to 30 minutes later. For parents, there's not much we can do. It means your kids are going to get home later unless you choose to drive to school to pick them up. So we're trying to be as proactive with our communications as possible, but look, it is generating some considerable frustration and understandable frustration, and I feel a little helpless. I wish I could do more about it.
There is some impact on the amount of traffic on High Street and also on Main Street.
Yep.
At the elementary schools at about 8:20 to about 8:40 in the morning.
Right.
Cars line up, and they're lined up. It's taken 20 minutes to get through a stoplight if you don't go to Gildersleeve. So just know that your people are putting their kids in cars and bringing them. They may
I
be
know.
carpooling.
Look, all I have to say is the struggle is real.
Yeah.
Our principals are doing everything they can. We're doing everything we can, but until we generate a solid pool with a sub pool of drivers, I don't see any easy way out of this.
Yeah.
But
I don't suppose there's anyone at the state that we could be advocating to, making a plea to try and shorten that 8 to 12 week certification window, is there?
I have been on calls. Every superintendent, by the way,
Yeah.
pulling their hair out about this.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an issue across the state, I'm just wondering if there's anyone who could work with us to help expedite this.
Yeah, I think they're hearing us, but some of the responses I've mostly heard are, do you want to compromise safety and training for new
I was
drivers?
gonna say, I don't want my kid on a bus that only took 6 weeks to license.
Right.
I wasn't talking about the training process, more the paperwork part of it,
licensing,
that can sometimes be
Good luck with that.
slow. We all know how that,
Yeah,
how that
DMV
takes.
works.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think if there are any bottlenecks at that point, they're likely being addressed now.
Okay.
It's just that the training they go through and the hours they have to put in to get that, I don't think anybody would suggest we cut corners on that.
course not.
But certainly if it's a DMV, processing issue, based on what I've heard at superintendent's conversations, the powers that be are well aware of that
Okay.
need. So it's a good point. All right, I'll keep you posted on that. Wish us luck, and, like I said, as soon as those 4 drivers are on deck, John Hipshire has assured me that they're allocated for Portland, and we're looking forward to that.
I certainly don't envy you guys in that position every day.
Yeah,
That's tough.
It's tough. It's tough. Thank you. So last thing I just want to mention to you is, as you know, per an executive order, all faculty and staff in the Portland Public Schools is required to be vaccinated. Right. So I'm working with Sodexo to make sure they have their employees vaccinated, ESS to make sure our subs are vaccinated, CHC clinicians to make sure their folks are vaccinated, Oak Hill and Head Start to make sure their folks are vaccinated. I've reached out to all of our faculty and staff and asked for information on vaccination status. Either are you vaccinated and prepared to share your vaccination card? Will you be vaccinated and able to share your vaccination card by September 27th? Do you plan to ask for a medical exemption or a religious exemption, or do you refuse to take the vaccine? So far, I've gotten 172 responses. 94.8% of those responses have indicated that they're fully vaccinated. 1.2% have indicated that they will be fully vaccinated by September 27th, which leaves us with 7 people so far, and I'm still waiting for a couple more to trickle in, who have indicated that they're either going to need the medical, the religious, or going to refuse the vaccine. So for those 7 people, I'm going to work with them to set up a system where they present to me at the beginning of each week a negative COVID test. And I've communicated with Russ Melmid at Chatham Health, where Chatham Health is doing some kind of roving testing centers. We're going to make sure that these 7 people know where those are. Otherwise, an excellent resource to find testing is 211. So we're going to make sure that these 7 individuals understand the expectation that negative COVID tests have, I figure if you go Wednesday, you'll have the results by the following Monday. So Wednesday will be testing and then get the results on a rolling basis. But otherwise, at this point, 96% of our teachers are faculty and staff, everybody is fully vaccinated, which
Charles,
good,
with the
right?
folks that need to be testing, are they doing that on work time or do they have to do that in their own time?
they'll do that on their own time. Yeah, after school they'll have to go get that. It's pretty quick. If you've had it done, you just pull in and get the swab.
15 seconds.
Yes, pretty fast. I've had 4 myself, so. But I'm confident that we'll be able to comply with the executive order by September 27th. We're working pretty hard on it, getting things organized. So
That's just our teachers and staff. That's not the whole world that you are tracking, right?
no, just our faculty and staff I'm tracking. The expectation is that M&J, Sodexo, CHC, Oak Hill, Head Start, they have to track their
They're
own.
tracking their own people.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
How many responses are you waiting on?
About 28 more.
Okay. And do you feel like you are clear on what the consequences, for lack of a better word, will be for somebody who doesn't produce a COVID test on the Monday? If the expectation is that you have them on Monday, how's that going to play out?
Stay tuned. What I've heard when we've talked to the state about that is that the consequences for not doing it are subject to collective bargaining. Right. So if it were a teacher that were either going to refuse a vaccine and refuse to be tested, that would show up in a discussion with the Teachers Association and that teacher about the conditions and terms, that it would be. Does that mean that the individual's going to be fired on the spot? No, but, the expectation is what the expectation is, and until that changes, that's what we're gonna need to figure out.
Okay.
And that's for all of the bargaining units. So if it's paras or nurses or administrative assistants, I'm not worried about it. I can tell you this, I've taken a look at the survey and I know who the 7 people are. I believe that all of these 7 people, their reason for not taking the vaccine is good intention. It's not, there's no, I'm taking a stand and I don't like this. Their reasons are sound from what I know of these individuals. I don't pry too much, but I have a feeling that everybody's going to cooperate and understand that the reason we're doing this is because our kids birth to age 12 can't be vaccinated.
Yeah.
So we owe it to our children to surround them with as many vaccinated or negative individuals as we can. And I think that sentiment is generally shared pretty widely.
Yeah, I don't doubt the good intentions of our staff, just to be perfectly clear.
Yeah.
I just feel like we need to be clear so that every person is being treated the same, so that somebody doesn't bring their test Monday and brings it Wednesday, but then the next person, we need to make sure that folks are being treated fairly.
Yep.
And to me, that means we just need to know what our response and policy is going to be.
Absolutely. Yep.
But that's really a function of the administration to manage that process. And
Sure.
follow it's like any other disciplinary or performance issue. You deal with it on a case-by-case basis.
Case-by-case basis,
according
yep.
to the precepts of the contract. And
That's exactly.
That's what we pay you to do.
Yeah, that's right. I got it. I got this. We're gonna make it work, and it's gonna be smooth and fair, and
Great.
I will ensure that. That's everything from me.
All right. Fiscal year 2020, 2021 year-end summary.
I'm glad to be here with everybody and not behind the screen.
Nice to see you.
We can hear you. Oh, wow.
You don't have to blank yourself out so you can.
So I know I put a lot of information because as the end of the year happened last year, I kind of fell short of giving updates. So that's why I wanted to give a full, breakdown of how we spent the end of year funding, how we ended the year, and then I kind of added in that extra piece of where our funding sources come from. So if anybody has any questions about 2021 or any of the information that I have given, because I know it's a lot.
It's very thorough. Thank you.
So is this the authorized spending report that
Yes.
you're referring to? And this
Yep.
is for our last
So if
year?
you make sure you're looking at the one that says 6/30/2021,
It's,
right at the top.
yeah, July
Mm-hmm.
20, July 1/20 to June 30th.
2021. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the one that ends with $7,098.27. Because there is an authorized spending for this year also.
Right.
So look for the date here.
That's the one right there?
Yep.
Here you go, Sean.
Oh, thank you. I didn't catch that one for some reason.
And then, yeah, that.
Yeah, well, that's last year.
Yeah.
And I kind of just did a brief summary of a few of the accounts where I saw that where I should have talked about with the over and under. So if there's any questions as to those accounts, also I can try and answer any questions.
So negative means we're under, positive is over, or the other way?
The other way.
Sorry.
So negative means we went over budget.
Positive, yeah, we over,
Negative means we were under budget.
yeah. This is just so,
It's so valuable to have this kind of information. I appreciate it.
thank you. What's nice is you don't see these huge that we
you know.
As I was doing the report compared to previous years, I'm like, wow, we really
Yeah, we
didn't go
rode the
over a
line,
lot.
yeah.
We actually was
Exactly.
pretty good, and even thinking
Yeah.
about doing our year-end budget transfer, I was kind of scanning, and there's
Yeah.
not a lot
Yeah.
No,
that we need to do.
That advertising and budget overage is, you know.
Okay.
148% of $250.
The advertising account, the little tiny
Oh,
one.
well.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
So for the year that we had, I think we ended
yeah.
fairly well. We got a lot of things purchased at the end, a lot of things done at the end. We did our full transfer into our lunch fund. We did $100,000 into Fund 11. So I think we started off this year well. And then the sources of funding, this is kind of just, when we do the budget, we always give, you know, this is how much we get from each grant. This is kind of like a inside look of, because we get 2 years of funding for some things, so we kind of get an inside look of how much we spend in 1 year, how much we spend in the next year. I don't know if this has ever been given out like this. I know it's a lot of numbers.
It's been done differently in the past. This is a useful format, I think.
Can I ask,
Mhm.
can you explain what the, just by way of example, looking at Title I,
Yep.
if there's one number and then there's, it's Title II rollover, Title II current year, so the rollover, is that an amount from 1920 that was not spent? Is that how?
Yep, so most of the grants are 2-year grants. And Portland has been very good with managing their money where they have only utilized year 1 in the first year. So even with our IDEA grant, not a lot of districts can say they've used only their first year in the first year. Most districts, and they say draw down 85% of your whole entire grant. So that is part of year 1 and year 2. Our Title II and our Title IV have always been consistent with, we always do the previous year, so that's why you'll see $0 spent as of 6/30, because then when you look at the next year report, these current years will be the rollover ones now that we'll be spending this year. And then we get another 2-year funding cycle that we hold for the next year. So we are fortunate that we have been able to do that. And again, the top ones are kind of the one-timers for the CARES Act money. But the 1, 2, 4, the only thing I didn't put on here was open choice. And I thought about that after the fact. So next time I'll include that as well, just to see a year-by-year comparison of how much we got last year compared to this year.
That would be great, yeah.
So what is the difference between IDEA 611 and IDEA 619?
619 is for the pre-K students, so it's always a lower amount because we have less pre-K kids. And the 611 is kindergarten through 12.
That's great.
And then we always try to, because we did have to, I believe it was 2 years, the first year I started, we did actually go into our year 2 IDA funds, which we haven't done before. And as I go each year, I try to scale that back a little bit each more so we have more funding available, and because it doesn't affect our MBR. I'm sorry, not MBR, our MOE for our IDA grant. We have to make sure we keep all of our special education expenses to where they should be and not use federal funds to supplant the money. So I try to, I think last year we used 62% of IDA. This year I got it down to 53 or something like that. So I'm trying to scale it back.
So what does MOE?
Maintenance of effort. So our efforts are the dollars that we spend on special education versus regular education.
So, does anybody have any question on last year's?
This isn't a question about last year, but it's a question about the money we put into our Fund 11, which I'm glad we were able to put the full 100,000 in, and I'm curious about what the expenses have been with the gas leaks at the middle school, high school complex, and where that's
on the next
up.
report.
Yeah, we're just going to cover that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, we'll move on to 21-22.
So I'll do the full quarter update next next month, you know, with the write-up and everything, but this is just the usual, that Charles wanted me to give every month, just to show the drawdown. We started the year, I will honestly say, we're starting it pretty much at a wash. We are very good where we're at, after everything fell into place with the special ed, the para hires. Just to give an update on that, we did hire the 6 individuals. Of the 6, 2 of them took insurance, so we still have a savings in that line item. So other than freak disasters that happen, like the gas leak, you know, we're doing pretty good, and that's what our maintenance fund is for. You know, we covered a portion of it with LEA, and now it cost about $33,000 to fix the gas leak. So we did $33,000. Because we just got the final bill, and I tried to do about 10 out of LEA, and then the rest will be in Fund 11, because Fund 11 is supposed to be for projects, and obviously for unexpected things like this, but you want to hope you can use it for projects that you've wanted to do in the past. So I try to, you know, use some wiggle room there to leave some available, because you don't know what's going to happen next.
So that's not reflected in the purchased professional technical service?
No, only the 10,000 that we've already paid. The rest of it is in Fund 11.
But that's where it would be?
Yes. No, it'd be in 44003.
Repair?
Yes, repair. So that's the main account that a lot of the facilities goes to. So that's the account to watch. Our salary line items are pretty spot on to where we started, between all the people resigning and the new people being hired. Insurance, we right now should have a little bit of savings between people that have left and people that have come on. I'm waiting for the next October report from the town. So we're looking pretty good right now.
So are the stipends, when they're paid, included in that certified salary line item?
Stipends go into 11015 when they're paid out.
Extracurricular?
Yep, unless it's the, the curriculum, or the curriculum specialists or team leaders. Those are included in their salary, but those also get budgeted with their salary. So any kind of stipends will show up in the 11015.
Any other questions?
Was there a grant that was put in for technology? Wasn't there at one point recently?
Which one?
Connectivity grant?
Was that what it was? Have we heard anything on that?
Yes, we have 2 grants that we're fingers across. One is the connectivity grant, that's $202,000. That's a
Right.
reimbursement for the Chromebooks.
Right.
That went through E-rate, our fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
And then we have 2 security grants that are out there. One is an interoperable mobile device grant, which we could, if we could use to buy new radios. And then one is actually a reimbursement for security projects that we did in the past.
Right.
So all total, that's about $80,000 worth of security grants that are out there. So
And that would
I
help
hope
our
to come to
budget.
you maybe at the
Yeah.
October board meeting with good news. We're still waiting to
Yeah.
hear.
No, that's great. Thank you for all this. This is great information.
So I do have a question on the 21-22 sources of funding.
Mhm.
What is the SIG grant?
That is the new grant that Ryan talked about last time.
Okay.
$350,000.
We're getting $350,000 for the next 4 years.
Each year, or for that's the total
Each year.
amount?
Each year.
Nope, each year.
Okay.
And that includes the upfront this year was a lot of purchasing of the materials, hiring 2 teachers. And I believe that's everything that's been, just getting the classroom set up basically to start that program.
SIG stands for School Improvement Grant.
Yep. So that's a new one that you'll see.
Is that like a one-time thing, do you know, or is it gonna be like, we can apply again after 4 years?
We're a part of this cohort, and I assume there's other cohorts you can continue, because they said this is the first time that Portland is being a part of it. So I would think that there would be other opportunities, whether it's for Gildersleeve or maybe other schools.
Mhm. That's great. Anybody else have any questions? No? Thank you, Stephanie, and it's very nice to see you in person. We appreciate you joining us. Okay, next we have the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Technology, and I believe he's going to be joining us via video.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight via video recording as I am with my family celebrating the Jewish New Year this evening. With Rosh Hashanah, or the Jewish New Year, we say Shana Tova, or Happy New Year. And we also say Happy New Year in terms of the 21-22 school year, which we're excited to be underway with across Portland Public Schools. I'm going to start tonight by recapping some of our summer learning programming that we've offered students in grades K through 12. We were very fortunate to be able to draw upon ESSER funding to increase our typical summer offerings and to do it in a little bit different way than we had previously. So what that looked like at Valley View and Gildersleeve was a 4-day program that took place throughout the month of July that serviced approximately 50 students in the area of literacy intervention. These were students that were invited in each day, Monday through Thursday, for targeted intervention based on demonstrated need with our 2020-21 literacy assessment data. This program was very successful, and we're confident that the intervention services that these students were provided over the summer will stand them in good stead for the 21-22 school year. At the middle school, we hosted students from both Brownstone and the middle school and provided these students literacy intervention, math intervention, and academic enrichment. Again, throughout the month of July, this program serviced approximately 30 students. And our teachers worked very hard to provide them both targeted instruction and some really fun enrichment activities at the outset of their academic learning each day. And then finally, at the high school, we had approximately 10 students participate in our high school credit recovery program. These students did take credit recovery courses through Middletown Public Schools, but those students were supported by an in-person Portland teacher 2 days a week, which gave them a little bit extra support and push to be successful in their online summer credit recovery courses. Additionally, and not included in my report, is Dawn Davis in the Special Education Department's longstanding, very successful extended school year program, which she's talked at length to the board about, and I'm sure will provide you a summer recap in her next presentation. I also want to draw attention to our online enrichment program. So this is the 3rd year that we've been running this program. And special hats off to Corey Toussaint and Alicia Miller, who are our online summer enrichment program coordinators. They all oversaw the work of approximately 15 Portland educators who work to provide our students in grades K through 12 weekly project-based learning experiences based on fun and engaging summer themes. We had approximately 150 students participate in some form in this program this past summer, and those are higher numbers than we've ever had before. So we're very proud of this program, proud of the creativity of our teachers in developing and offering our students those project-based learning experiences, and very proud of our students and families who chose to participate. At the elementary level, we awarded weekly raffle prizes to participating students, and at the secondary level, participating students were entered into an end-of-program raffle in which we were able to raffle off some pretty exciting prizes, 2 sets of wireless Beats earbuds, a Fitbit smartwatch, and a Lake Compound summer pass for next season, which I believe also includes the end of this season of the price. So it was just a nice cherry on top to a great program and a way to reward our students who participated at all levels. I'd like to next talk about the opening days of professional development that we offered our teachers ahead of the 21-22 school year. So we began with our new teacher orientation on August, I'm gonna get my dates wrong here. I'm in a little bit of a calendar time warp. I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm just checking my calendar. We offered that on August 23rd and 24th. So on August 23rd, our approximately 17 new hires at that time came in for a full day of orientation, in which they got to learn a lot of vital information about Portland Public Schools, about our district, about our town. That was facilitated, as always, by the excellent Alicia Miller-Lewis, who has really made new teacher orientation very much her own program, something she's very proud of, and a tradition that we're happy to draw upon each year and to utilize her expertise in doing so. The following day, that Tuesday, the 24th, our new hires were given time within their buildings to meet with their principals and to get their feet under them in advance of our first days of school. August 25th, Wednesday, marked our first day back with all certified staff in the district. So because we were not yet ready to all meet as one giant group of people in the high school or middle school auditorium, Dr. Britton, Dawn Davis, and I did what we called the Traveling Convocation Roadshow. We spent time in each building. And Dr. Britton really did a comprehensive job of presenting to all staff important COVID safety information ahead of the school year so that we could all be on the same page and make sure that we're tending to the right mitigation strategies while advancing instruction, teaching, and learning across our schools. Within that presentation, Dr. Britton also covered the 21-22 Board of Education strategic goals with our faculty, including those initiatives that will lead to school-based action planning for the year ahead. Very excitedly, we revealed our new vision of the graduate, including our new and revamped Portland Public Schools logo, and that Dr. Britton presented that information to our teachers as really a foundational document that will serve to establish coherent pillars of teaching and learning across all schools. From there, teachers went into some curricular vertical team meeting time where they were able to meet in their K-12 content area vertical teams, think about advanced planning for the year ahead, and consider what the Board of Education goals and initiatives would mean for their specific vertical teams in the work to come. And then we ended that day with our teachers, paraprofessionals, and secretaries meeting within their unions for important updates. On Thursday, the 26th, we came back for day 2. This was largely a teaching and learning day. Similar to Convocation, I did a traveling roadshow in which I visited each building and met with certified faculty and presented our curriculum and instruction goals for 21-22, and these are nested under goal number 3 within the Board of Education goals and initiatives for the upcoming school year. Teachers then utilize their learning from their session with me to take advantage of curricular planning time ahead of the first days of school. And this also meant for teachers giving some specific planning focus to what those opening weeks of instruction would look like, with importance placed on establishing community, building student agency, and supporting student inquiry. On day 3, our principals developed building-based agendas for their certified staff, which included a range of important meetings and events to disseminate information at the building level and to get teachers thinking and planning towards building-based goals for 21-22. And on all days, we were happy to provide teachers time using our Safe Schools online platform to complete mandatory online trainings that are both required by the district and the state of Connecticut. And in addition, and perhaps most importantly, giving our teachers plenty of time to get their classrooms set up, to get themselves ready for the first days of school, and to get their classroom communities ready to go. A quick equity update is where I'm going to take us next. So our first district coalition meeting of the year is scheduled for, I believe I have the wrong date, I wrote 9/12. It is, in fact, Tuesday, September 21st, ahead of our next Board of Education meeting. That meeting is once again going to be virtual. We've made the decision to have the coalition meetings virtual through the end of the year, and then to evaluate where we are in terms of the ongoing pandemic. Exciting news on our district-wide equity coalition. Our former district equity coordinator, one of 2, Rob Raines, has left the district. He's taken an administrative job elsewhere, so we wish Rob the best of luck. Stephen Jewell, Brownstone literacy teacher, has stepped up and it will be serving in the role of equity coordinator as a replacement for Rob Rain. So we thank Rob for his service, and we're really excited to have Stephen Jewell aboard to join Kate Bohannon, middle and high school social worker, as our other district equity coordinator. We've begun the work right now of recruiting for school-based equity leadership teams. So these teams will be comprised of building-based faculty and staff. Later, we will add in students and parents into the mix. To help us over the course of the next school year, really begin the work of advancing equity at the building level. And these school-based equity leadership teams will work in close concert with our district coalition to actualize recommendations and actions for increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion within each building. I'm going to next take us to a quick update. We have effectively repurposed and also hired into the role many instructional interventionists / instructional coaches across the district. These include personnel at Valley View, Gildersleeve, and Brownstone. And while we have had interventionists in the district previously in areas of literacy and mathematics, we've not previously had instructional coaches. So these individuals will be wearing two hats, interventionists and coaches, and we're excited to develop their acumen and their skill set as instructional coaches who can effectively help us to lift the bar of teaching and learning across all classrooms in the district. I myself, a few moons ago, was an instructional coach. I'll long say it's probably the most important and most impactful work I've ever done. It's something I'm very passionate about, and I'm excited to lend my expertise and support to our cadre of instructional coaches across Portland Public Schools. Many of our coaches have already attended a 2-day instructional coaching training offered by PrEP. Those who haven't are scheduled to attend that same training a little bit later this month. And we're going to meet as a large group next Friday to begin to lay out a district framework, expectations, and practices for instructional coaching across the district, such that our work has coherence and that we can learn from and strengthen each other in this work. Next, I'd like to talk briefly about fall assessments. So we're gearing up for fall assessments to assess students in order to gain important data that helps us define needs and to meet students' needs where they are and to the best of our ability. So we'll be beginning Ames web testing shortly within the next couple of months, a couple of weeks. Ames web testing is benchmark testing that occurs 3 times a year in the areas of literacy and mathematics, and we lean heavily upon that data to determine intervention and enrichment groupings. Additionally, we'll be administering literacy-based running records to all students in grades K through 8 to again provide us a secondary data point of which students need important literacy support and in what specific areas. And again, we will be offering this fall the PSAT test to all grade 9, 10, and 11 students at Portland High School. Freshmen will take the PSAT 9, sophomores will take the PSAT 10, and all 11th grade students will take the PSAT NMSQT, or National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. So we're excited for these assessments. We're excited for the data that these assessments generate in terms of how they help us to both inform instruction and meet students' needs. An exciting update about Chromebook devices. So we are in possession, 95% of the way, in possession of 510 new devices. 400 devices that are earmarked for students in grades 9 through 12, and an additional 110 devices that are earmarked for certified faculty across Portland Public Schools. The procurement of these devices represents the hard work that we did together last year in both building a case for device replenishment and convincing the town, which they did generously, to fund that need. So we've taken receipt of, again, about 95% of these devices. Our tech team is very, very hard at work getting them ready for rollout. We've earmarked the week of September 20th through the 24th to begin rollout of these devices to high school students, to be very shortly thereafter followed by rollout of these devices to certified faculty. As we roll out devices to students and faculty, we'll be collecting the devices that they currently have, re-imaging and re-inventorying those devices, and then preparing them for rollout across the district such that we're able to permanently retire our oldest devices. So we're rolling out 510 brand new devices, and we will be sending out to long overdue past year 510 of our oldest devices that are really struggling to keep up with instructional demands, and that presented myriad problems last year in terms of remote learning. Any way you slice it, these new devices are going to help us to lift the quality of technology-based teaching and learning across Portland Public Schools. So we're very, very excited. Again, a big thank you to the town of Portland for funding this work, and a big, big thank you to the Board of Education for supporting us in the procurement of these devices as reflects need. A real quick update about our social media. So we have 2 social media coordinators who are already well underway with the work. Karen Radzowitz is our K-6 social media coordinator, and Alicia Miller-Lewis is our 712 social media coordinator. We have dedicated Instagram and Facebook pages that are being already regularly updated. They're beautiful sites to go see what's going on in our buildings, in our classrooms, across our schools. And these Facebook and Instagram pages are linked directly on the Portland Schools website. So if you go there, you'll easily find the links. If you're not following them already, please do. It's exciting to get the notifications. It's a good reason to look at your phone and bring a smile to your face to see all the great things happening on a daily basis here, and also an awesome way for our families and community to stay informed of important goings on. So special thanks to Karen and Alicia for getting us off to such a strong start with our social media efforts. And then my final update, for those of you that receive our building-based newsletters each week, you may notice a change in how they look this year. We contracted with a company known as S'more, who helps us to publish really graphically pleasing web-hosted newsletters. But most importantly, from an accessibility and an equity standpoint, these newsletters can be automatically translated into dozens and dozens of languages over the internet. So information that's being sent out to our families that English may not be the first spoken language or the most comfortably spoken language in their households, don't suffer from a lack of access to this critical information. If you're not receiving our weekly school newsletters, you can feel free to reach out to any of our principals or school-based secretaries and have them, add you into the mix to receive those newsletters. Again, they contain awesome pictures of great things happening, important updates about each of our schools. So I would encourage you to subscribe or to reach out to our principals if you're not already subscribed. And when you see those newsletters, they'll come to you, as they will in all our families, in the body of an email. When you click on that newsletter, it takes you to a web-hosted version of that same newsletter with all different translation options, again, in dozens and dozens of languages. So we're proud of that effort from an equity and access standpoint. I apologize that I'm not there with you tonight to field questions. If you do have any questions about anything I presented tonight, please don't hesitate to email or call. Happy to clarify anything. Again, I want to thank you for the flexibility to present to you via recording tonight. I wish everyone Shana Tova, happy Jewish New Year, and also a happy new school year. Excited to be here, getting underway again, and looking forward to the great work ahead this year. Take care, everyone. Bye.
I could probably answer any questions that you might have about Eric's presentation too, if anybody has one.
Awesome job.
So I would just like to, offer up an apology and a recognition that we did schedule this on a Jewish holiday. I am going to be taking a much closer look at the calendar this year, and I think that from now on, even though we don't have the days off, we should recognize those dates on the district calendar so that we're not scheduling meetings on these dates. So I certainly want to apologize for that and recognize that we have done this and that we need to make amends in next year. Let's put some of these Jewish holidays on the calendar so that we can be clear about not scheduling any afternoon or evening events on these holidays.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you, Charles.
Yep.
All right. We will move on to new business. We have a bunch of policies down for first reading.
Sure, so why don't I walk you through them if it's okay. So the policy committee did take a look at each of these policies, and I would just want to start by recognizing that there's very little local prerogative with respect to these policies. These are all grounded in statutory changes that were made by the legislature during the 2020-2021 legislative session. And of course, what happens is they pass the laws, and then CABE has to work through the policies to identify the different policies that the laws affect, and then we make the changes at the policy level. So policy committee did take a look at these policies, and they do reflect the statutory changes. In some cases, these are significant. These are definitely changes to the way we've done things, for better or worse. I'd be happy to walk through these with you and then answer any questions about them. Unless you've all read them and they're all fine and you don't need me to spend any time with them. Would you like me to walk through them?
I think so.
Okay, let's do that. So let's start with, if we could, 0200, this is the mission, goals, and objectives, right? So Meg and I took a look at the policy handbook, and we don't have a 0200 policy for mission, goals, and objectives. The change to the language had us include in these goals and objectives a language about social and emotional learning. So we didn't have a policy to make that change to, but I did take a look at the CABE model policy 0200, and it is exactly what we do with the board goals that we set each year. I mean, literally, word for word, how we set goals at the board level, how those goals matriculate down to the building level. And then, so I have no objection in adopting this as a new policy, incorporating the social emotional language, and then it really won't affect our practice very much. It's just that we set goals every year, and that our goals include these components outlined in numbers 1 through 17. And 17, of course, does reference social and emotional learning, which, as you know, is our second goal for this year. So I'm very comfortable with this policy to be added to the Portland Board of Ed policy.
Any questions on new policy P0200?
Are we, do we need to, this is a first reading,
First
right?
reading.
Yeah.
All right, let me keep going then. Why don't we talk about community relations, P1110. So this came out of the piece of legislation called an Act Concerning Social Equity, Health, Safety, and Education of Children. And there were several policy changes that came out of this. The primary effect of this is that now for our parent-teacher conferences, per this policy change, parents would be allowed to attend those conferences either by telephone, Zoom, or Google Meet. We found last year that the Google Meet parent conferences worked quite well. I think this will add a layer of convenience to our parents who might be out of state or home keeping an eye on their kids, right? So I see this as a good change. It will not be hard to implement. We already know how to do this, but largely this just allows us to run our parent-teacher conferences remotely. Okay. All right, let's go to food services, policy update 3542.43. Again, this also came out of an act concerning social equity, health, safety, and education for children. So the primary change to this means that it would be, and like, I would like to think that this was commonsense, but we don't shame students or let them go hungry if they're running an account balance, right? So in some districts, I imagine, there was a practice where kids would be made to feel bad if they were running a deficit in their account. And in some cases, you know, maybe they were provided food that wasn't so great, if any at all. Right? So what this would establish the expectation is that kids don't go hungry, even if their account balances are off, right? Meaning that they're running a debt. In the cases where they're running a debt, this obligates us to reach out to the families, explain that there are services available, free and reduced price meals as needed, or otherwise remind parents that they should be keeping their account in good stead, right? So this language would largely establish that expectation for our lunchroom monitors and Sodexo employees. Stephanie and I are, of course, going to have to keep an eye on this, right? what we can't have, as you know, is running up huge debt in our lunch account. But I don't think this is gonna accomplish that. We'll keep a close eye on it, but generally it just, you know, make sure kids aren't made to feel bad if their parents aren't keeping up with the lunch bills. So it sounds reasonable to me. I've shared it with Sodexo. They don't really have a lot of discussion over it. It's the law now, so I think it's not going to be too hard to implement.
If I can comment briefly on that, I had a long conversation with a parent that other parents joined into one night, where it was this whole thing about the cheese sandwich.
Cheese sandwich, yeah.
Which I guess was the thing.
Got those
Yeah.
calls.
And if you didn't have lunch money or you were over account, you get the cheese sandwich,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is basically a cold
Right.
cheese on bread.
We're not doing the cheese sandwiches
Yeah.
anymore.
That was-
They're gonna get that regular
Yeah.
lunch.
Yeah, that's good.
It does exclude a la carte items, so
Yeah.
you can't necessarily get the Snapple, but you can get the regular lunch and it won't be the cheese sandwich.
That's good.
Yeah.
Seems like an important and overdue change.
Yes, I would agree. Okay, let's take a look then at 4118 as it affects our non-discrimination policy. Again, this just adds to our non-discrimination policy language that includes hairstyle as part of racial and ethnic traits. So if anybody thought it was a good idea, and I can't imagine people would, it certainly hasn't happened in Portland, at least as long as I've been here, that if somebody had cornrows or a different hairstyle, that person might be subjected to discriminatory behavior. I see no problem at all adding that to our policy language, and I would be appalled if anybody in Portland were to think that that was appropriate.
The only thing that came to mind, and this probably dates me more than other things, sports teams requiring crew cuts or, you know, when kids wear certain things on game days, they don't do that stuff anymore, you know?
Sometimes make them wear a tie.
I'm old.
Like, they have to dress nice for the day of the
Also
week
wear
or
a
something.
tie, yeah.
Good.
And away games.
Nothing that would embarrass students or
Good.
make them.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to point out is we need to update the name of our superintendent.
Oh, look at that.
Policy.
Yeah, all right. Let's make that change.
But where's that? It's in the policy.
The non-discrimination policy.
I think it's the notice or something
Oh,
that goes out,
yeah.
still says Dr. O'Reilly.
We'll get that out for sure.
And it looks like the citation for the statute needs to be updated in the
Oh, the,
legal references. I don't see that.
you're right, look at that. Okay, I'll get that on there by the second read.
And actually, I think with putting in the name of the superintendent, not that it's a problem, is to just put in that the superintendent, just generically.
Just generic, yeah.
Generic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then we don't have to go back and change all these policies when there's a change.
Right, I might even do the same with,
think
Dawn
it's
Dawn
good
Davis is
notice.
identified as our Title IX coordinator, so I might just put
I
Title
think
IX
though in
director,
that
student
case,
services.
well, I think in that case, it has to be specific
Has to be.
because that's a civil, that could end up in federal court.
Ooh.
I think it can't be just.
I think it has to be.
Has to be
Yeah,
more.
I think her name has to be on
I
there.
think that the superintendent does as well here, but.
Let me check on that.
Yeah, we
I'll-
can check.
I'll make sure that gets on there for the second reading. All right, next policy, let's take a look at attendance, excuses, dismissals, 5113. Again, this is interesting, right? So this establishes the expectation that all students in pre-K through grade 12 are allowed to take 2 mental health days. Right? So these would be considered excused absences, and these are 2 days where students should tend to their social and emotional well-being. The only limitation on this is that the days can't be taken consecutively.
I don't believe you sent us 5113.
Oh, you're kidding?
I have 5, yeah, I don't have it.
I don't have it either.
Oh, no, you're kidding. It's not in your,
Nope.
I thought it was in the other material that was there for the,
We saw it with the
Policy
policy
committee.
committee.
Yeah, I
So
remember
it's not-
seeing it, but
It's not in the
not-
drive here.
yeah.
you saw it in
Sorry to
policy,
interrupt
right?
you.
Yeah, there was-
Yeah,
it
no,
was
I'm
on
glad you
my
pointed that out.
Seeing other
documents.
confused faces too.
looking at the email?
Holy cow, okay.
Oh, it's
Well,
in an
So we'll
email?
put that on
Yeah.
first reading the
Yep.
next time.
Oh,
Yep.
so
It's in the
I was looking
email
at
you
Google
sent.
Drive.
We'll put
Is
this
that where,
policy
oh, it's an
on
email?
Yeah.
first 5113 first read because I didn't include it in your drive. I'm sorry about that. But it was a little prelude,
It's
a
all
little
good.
preview of it. You'll be hearing about how students can take 2 mental health days starting this year. And I'll talk to you about how we're going to change some attendance codes in our attendance recording system so that we keep track that students don't try to take a break. So, 2 per student. All right, make sure I can, let's go on then to 5131 bullying. Did I include that one in here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I got that one.
Mhm.
Okay, so, let me refresh my memory. Okay, this is a relatively easy change. The only change to this is that it clarifies who we need to have on our Safe School Climate Committees. So, I think it just talks about having representatives of students and, one teacher selected by their bargaining unit for certified employees, medical or mental health personnel, and at the school level, students enrolled. The student will be selected by the principal. So these are just new members of our Safe School Climate Committee. Certainly makes sense that we have a broad representation of folks on these committees, and don't think this will be a problem at all, too. As a matter of fact, I think it'd be a great experience for some students, and I know that teachers are often happy to serve on these committees.
Yeah. So that's only at the high school level?
Uh,
At the high school level, at least one student?
Right. I don't know if it says just high school.
I'm looking at
Yeah.
I, page I.
Yeah.
Yeah, C is at the high school level, at
It does
least
say
one
high
student.
school. Well, it seems like this would be appropriate for middle school too, but.
Well, it doesn't say we can't have students included
Right.
at any other level, right?
Yeah, I mean, Valley View might be unique,
Has to
but,
include, shall include, but is not limited.
All right, yeah. So we'll certainly at the high school level, we'll make it happen, and I see it as appropriate at Brownstone in the middle school too.
Great, that's great.
Okay, let's talk about the next one. And of course, we know that this one, invited some controversy this year. We talk about student health services and health assessments and immunizations. So this is a response to the legislation that eliminated the sincerely held religious belief from the reasons that people can not have their children vaccinated. So certainly our students who are currently have that on file with us, they're grandfathered, right? But any student starting school or who doesn't have that religious exemption on file, I think I put the date in here, after April 28th, right, is no longer going to be allowed that religious exemption. So it is what it is. Again, we don't have a lot of discretion over that. I'm sure that law is going to be litigated, and we'll respond as the courts determine whether that's something that is going to stand.
So you're only allowed to be grandfathered in with that religious exemption if a child is enrolled in kindergarten through 12th grade. Any child enrolled in preschool or pre-K on or before April 28th whose parent submitted the statement necessary for religious exemption is not going to be honored.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, new
Pursuant
students.
to the law.
Yeah, there's only current students who had the exemption already on file.
Even if they're enrolled in our pre-K program.
Correct.
That doesn't count.
Right. Okay, so I don't think we've seen the last of that one. I just have a feeling. Okay, so graduation requirements. If we take a look at policy 6146. This is a relatively easy change. We do student success plans for students in grades 6 through 12. This just requires us to include computer science, technology, engineering, and mathematics career components into those student success plans. And we do that already. So I think this is just other places catching up with what we're doing. So
Is this the weighted grading?
no, this is graduation requirement 6146.
That's this one.
Okay, that one is right.
6146.
Yeah, there's two 6146.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the graduation requirements.
So 6146 parentheses A.
It is 6146 parentheses A, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Just to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Yep. All right, the next one then is 6146.11. This talks about weighted grading, and it's a response to and not concerning various revisions to education statutes. So this, we don't have this policy yet, right? This policy requires us, or the law requires us, to notify parents if we do or do not do weighted grading. So the only thing that's a function of this policy is that we will tell parents in our student handbook and through our communications that we do weighted grading. So the high school does have a weighted grading system. This tells us that we will let people know that we do a weighted grading and provide information about what that weighted grading is.
So Charles, I have a problem with the first line of this policy. Coming out of our policy meeting, I was fully on board with what you just said, which is to me what the rest of the policy says. But that first sentence, that the Board of Education is in favor of weighted grading, to me doesn't seem necessary in the policy and isn't necessarily a reflection of any conversation that we've had on the board.
So that's interesting. This is from the model policy. Right? The first statement there is we do have weighted grading now.
Right.
Therefore, previous boards have been in support of it, and it is current practice.
Right.
So, in fairness, currently we are doing weighted grading, and that the board would therefore be in favor of continuing to do that, up until the point where the board was no longer in favor of doing that, which would require us to go back to policy committee and change practice. Right? If we change that practice, then that first sentence would say the Board of Education is not in favor of weighted grading, and we would notify the public that we don't do weighted grading.
But is that first sentence necessary, though? Can we just say that, we practice weighted grading, we will inform you how and when that's happening? I guess I'm just wondering if it's necessary to have that qualification that we're in favor or not in favor. If we can just say this is the current practice.
Or just start with the second paragraph.
Start with the second paragraph?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it just seems though we are in favor of it because we're doing it. And I don't know, it doesn't seem like why would we need to not say that?
I don't recall ever discussing.
No, I'm looking it up,
What
frankly,
weighted
to
grading
get a better
is.
understanding of it.
I'm in favor of it. I'm not sure I understand.
It's
Is
the
that
in favor
completely-
phrase that suggests, I don't know, it's just an interesting way of wording it. I completely understand what you're saying, and as I read this, it does not feel necessary. I think the policy still communicates the essence of what you were just describing and what we discussed in the policy meeting without that sentence.
I agree. I think if we started just with that second paragraph and just said that we're going to communicate
Yeah.
that whether we do or don't do weighted grading, I don't think we need the in favor. I think that's fine.
No, I don't think
Well, I'm not in favor of it. I never have been. I mean, I'm sure I was there. I don't remember having a lot of discussion about this.
Myself, but.
I mean, a lot's happened in the last
I'm sure.
8
When's the
years.
last
so-
time we looked at this?
But I'm pretty sure I would have argued, articulately and passionately against
What
it.
was the date on that policy?
Well,
That's a
did we
good-
even have that policy? 'Cause I don't see a
No, I never
citation
had
here.
Policy.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
well-
never been discussed.
Right. I would think that it's a good question. I think we should get back to policy committee and have a discussion at
Yeah.
policy committee about weighted grading. Certainly, we want to involve Kate Lawson and the counselors and deepen our understanding of how it's done, the pros and cons of it, how long it's been done, what the implications of it are, and then consider the policy.
Right.
If there's a desire to change the policy and not do weighted grading, I think that the appropriate forum for that is start with policy, have Kate come talk to the full board about what it is and make an informed decision.
That's an equity issue.
It's an equity.
100%.
I agree.
And I completely agree with you that we should be having that conversation, that bigger, broader conversation, but for the purpose of fulfilling this obligation
Right.
to legislation, we just need to announce that we will be clear about whether we're weighting grades or not. We don't need to be making a statement about whether we're in favor of it or not.
And this policy will be noted in the student handbook for parents
Agreed.
to know that this is what we do right now. This is our present practice.
Great, thanks.
So more to come on that, for sure. Now, the last one here, this individualized program for special education students. Dawn and I had a conversation about this today. I'm going to, with your permission, pull this off for right now. What I think we need to do with this is replace the entire policy. So Dawn and I took a look at it. CABE had 3 model policies. It looks like what happened with our policies, it sort of became a Frankenstein's monster of,
I'm so glad you're saying
of
that.
different policies, and Dawn looked at it over the weekend, and her head started spinning, and I think we want to start from scratch on the entire policy and not try to bastardize it anymore.
Great.
So maybe stay tuned on that, and let me get with Dawn and bring back a whole new policy that reflects both the statutory changes and is a cleaner statement of how we provide student support services.
Thank you.
And I know there's webinars right now at CERC
Yep.
for this very topic.
For this very
because
topic.
it's so complicated.
Yep. So those are all of them. I think with the changes I recommended, they'll come back for a second read next time. And if in the meantime anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'll do my best. And then I think certainly the discussion about weighted grading and special education services, I think merits some ongoing consideration.
Charles, if there are some little typos that need to be cleaned up, should I direct those to you or to Meg?
Yeah, let me know.
You know I can't stop myself.
Yeah, no, please. They're important. So
All right.
let me get through those.
Can I just ask, I don't know, what do you think is going to be the basis of challenging that vaccination requirement?
The religious, I think, Meg, isn't it? Hasn't it been?
I don't know that it's been taken to court at this point.
I don't know either.
There still is a medical exemption. So if you have any reason and your pediatrician writes the medical exemption, you're certainly going to be exempt from, it's really the basic childhood vaccinations
Yeah.
that are at risk here of causing the problem. Because as I corrected Charles the other day on the religious exemption comment about vaccinations for COVID, he said, no, there is a religious exemption for COVID. Talk about mixed messaging. There's a medical exemption, there's also a religious exemption. And that would, preclude 12-year or 16-year-old kids from being vaccinated because they could come to school with that in hand. But the MMR, the rubella, mumps, and measles, is a required entree into school. You have to have that.
Yeah, right.
Unless you have a medical reason. And
Right.
as far as I know, it hasn't been challenged in the courts. Everybody scrambled to see what was gonna happen, and nothing has happened.
Yeah.
So, it's only been a couple
Just
months.
curious from the perspective of teaching argument, what the argument would be.
Well, it's an infringement on religious liberty, I think would be the argument. It's
Yeah.
Medical freedom.
unconstitutional.
Yeah, it would become a constitutional.
Okay.
That's what I would
ACLU or
think.
somebody would pick it up, but nobody has it as far as I know.
That'd be fun to
And we're
watch.
not the only state. There's any number of other states that have also
Yeah,
required
right.
this exemption to be, go away.
Okay.
So, to be continued, I'm sure, but nothing right now, nothing on the radar.
All right.
Thank you.
So, we will move on to old business, of which I don't think we have any. We don't. All right, committee reports, curriculum,
Nothing to report. I'm sure we'll be meeting soon.
policy, we heard enough from you tonight.
No meeting scheduled, but I'm sure we'll be talking.
Yep. Personnel, we are getting closer to mediation on a couple of contracts, and we will be moving forward on the others, I would think, in the very near future. Building and grounds,
Nothing at the present time.
conservation.
Go ahead.
That's okay.
Well, I was gonna say, I listened and I saw the minutes from the Capital Long Range Planning Committee, and they wanna take another walk around the track,
Yep.
and they are not, funding anything right now.
Conservation and renewable task force.
I don't have any updates tonight, but I'll try and get an update before our next meeting on where we're at with the solar installation.
Great. Crack liaison.
The meeting is on the 15th.
All right. Selectmen,
Nothing, I missed the last meeting.
okay.
And we didn't have the facilities committee, study committee on here, but that is going to meet on Monday, the 13th.
Okay.
And there's a walk around on Saturday, September 11th, with the committee at the schools.
Is that, the long-range capital people also?
No,
Or
I don't
just
know.
the
I
facilities
don't
committee?
know if they're included. No, I don't believe they are.
Okay. Task force on solidarity,
Yeah, I've got to find out when their next meeting is. I haven't seen it posted.
equity and inclusion coalition.
We just got that from Eric, basically.
Yep.
We start, although I don't know what time that meeting is.
I'm assuming,
Can I
wasn't it
go
always
back?
4?
I think, yeah, that's what I wrote down.
I'm surprised it continues to be on a night that it's a Board of Ed meeting. I
It's a-
remember when we agreed to do this, them saying specifically, it would not be on a Board of Ed night. So,
Okay, so I guess that's something you could address with.
yeah, it's long. I mean, we're
Right.
Yeah,
from
we
4
were there
o'clock
from
till
4,
10,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Can I backtrack for a minute now, because that solidarity on task force?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
The task force on solidarity has now become an official Board of Selectmen committee, and I know it's changed a little bit and may have a different meeting night. They may add more people or different people to it.
Okay,
I'm
so
Which
I'm
one
sorry,
is-
I cannot,
Oh.
Meg says has changed and morphed into something else by action of the Board of Selectmen.
okay.
So, you may want to check to see what it's called now and when it meets.
I believe it's still
Yeah,
the
it's the
task
same
force.
name.
Committee on
Or
Solidarity.
Committee on Solidarity, but it's officially, it's a public meeting, it's a. an
All right, but
official
we were
committee.
talking about the Equity and Inclusion Coalition.
She was just backtracking.
Oh, okay. It's so, honestly, I can hardly hear tonight from down here. It's terrible.
Well, when this,
The fan, it's
when those
awful.
fans kick
Yeah, when
in.
the
The
air
masks,
conditioning
the fan,
kicks
it's-
on,
it's a lot.
you can't
All
hear
right,
anything.
So,
Project.
Yeah, please, everybody.
Yes.
Microphones, you use your teacher voice.
If you could follow up and let us know when that, at our next meeting, you can give us an update on when the
Mhm.
task force is going to be meeting.
21st or 20.
Okay, audience of citizens, do we have anybody who'd like to address the board? All right, Board of Education member comments. Let's start with you, Dave. Is there
No,
anything you'd
just
like
what
to
Lauren and
comment?
I just talked about here is that I think because of the new masking situation, I think we all need to be aware of, to use the microphones, because I probably heard half the meeting.
But they don't amplify us, do they,
No.
Dylan?
They don't amplify to us.
Yeah, it might be nice if we had a
Okay.
speaker here with the mic.
Can we turn the
I
fan
mean,
off?
most of what Stephanie was saying, she was talking so quietly, so far away from the mic, I have no idea what she was saying.
Yeah.
I would.
Okay, well, we will address that. Any other, Laurel?
Sure, the Board of Ed received an email from Elizabeth Habino this morning about, the meeting tonight on the Rosh Hashanah holiday. And I just wanted to thank Liz for bringing that up, and thank you, Charles, for your responsiveness to that. I appreciate that moving forward. And I wanted to give a thank you to the 2 social media coordinators. I've been following along on their pages on Facebook, and they're so informative and speedy with their updates, and I think parents are going to really appreciate having that additional mode of communication.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think, oh, that's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now we're all yelling.
And now we're all
Yeah.
yelling. And then I guess finally, I just need to acknowledge that at our last meeting, there was an unfortunate tone for part of the meeting, and it made me personally uncomfortable, and so I wanted to particularly apologize to Dawn Davis and thank her for her service to our community and to our town and the hard work that she does advocating for our students. She really goes above and beyond, and she's a valuable member of our administrative team, and I hope she knows how appreciative we are of her service to our community. And that's all for me.
Okay. Meg?
No comments. Nothing.
Okay.
Oh, well, I'll comment then.
Tim?
I think it was unfortunate the way, and I appreciate Laurel's comments, and, you know, we all appreciate all of our administrators, and I think we need to respect when board members have a question or have a concern, that they're allowed to express that and not have some subset or, you know, or individuals kind of jump on them to intercede like there's something on tawdry going on. That, you know, I spoke with Dawn after the meeting, and, you know, I felt very comfortable with the conversation. I think we had an unfortunate, and it was inappropriate that an email chain started after the meeting and started with this crosstalk about things that really should have been talked about on the meeting. And I think when there's a simple question and you're trying to, you know, the fact that we were partially remote and partially in person, made it particularly difficult to kind of be in sync with where the conversation was going and what we were trying to express. And I think it's unfortunate that that's not been given its due, to understand and to work at that. And, this perception that, somehow Dawn was wronged in the meeting, I wholly reject that. I just think it's just not true. I think, we're here as a board to do our job, to, it's a volunteer role where we work together. I think we've worked together tremendously well. I think Stephanie has brought to the table a level of professionalism and expertise with her reports that I know I never saw in my first four almost 5 years on the board. And it's tremendous. So, we here are the finance committee. We don't have a finance committee. When we meet here as a group, we're the finance committee. So when finance numbers are given to us, I think they should be vetted and they should be assured to some level of accuracy. And that was all that was about. And to portray it as anything else and somehow we wronged a administrator, or I wronged, because I was trying to just close out my question and understand what was going on. It's just wrong, and I think it speaks poorly for us that we've come down to that now, where we're using that kind of tactic to, in my opinion, make it difficult to function and to ask the questions that need to be asked so we understand them. That we shouldn't just slide over and gloss over things, and yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter. But thank you.
Well, gee, I'm sort of sorry I missed all the excitement. First time in a long time that my wife and I have been on vacation, just us. So it was great, but that sounded like it was a lot of interesting discussion going on.
For posterity.
Yeah, well, great. Maybe I'll go back and watch it. I just do want to say also, just at the start of this school year, this is the first year in like 15 years where I do not have children in the Portland public school system. So I just want to make sure that all the teachers and the administrators and everyone who helped my children have a really positive experience know how much we appreciate all their hard work. Both my kids, I think, are very prepared to be at the schools where they are, and I, if there was any negative side, it was that I think they were so accustomed to being in such a tight-knit community that going to a school of, like 3,000 or 5,000 people, which is pretty small for colleges, was a little overwhelming for them. But I think they're absolutely prepared thanks to all the hard work of all the teachers and the staff here in the Portland schools. So that's how I'd like to start off this year. So thank you all.
That's great. Lauren?
I would just like to say thank you to everybody involved in getting the school year off to a really fabulous start. Everything seems so much closer to normal. I know the parents that I've spoken with are very happy. The children that I've spoken with are very happy. It seems like everything is going well, and looking forward to a good year. A much better year.
I think we all are.
Yep.
So I would just say, the situation that you spoke to, Tim, is something that we'll be addressing in our board self-evaluation. I attempted to make clear after the fact that board members are supposed to and are encouraged to ask questions of anyone. Any administrators that present information to us at our meetings. We're a model of civil discourse, and occasionally, I think, when people are passionate about the topics that they're discussing, things can get to a different level without anybody really realizing what's happening. And that was the issue that I was attempting to address, and that we will discuss further during our board self-evaluation in executive session. If there's no other comments, we'll move on to executive session. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to move into executive session and to invite Dr. Britton to join us.
I'll second.
And the
Okay,
time
roll.
now is 8:42.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes.
Welcome.
Send them over to me ahead of time, but.
Oh, I know, I
yeah.
was gonna, and I
That's
just
all
never
right.
did.
And Dave,
Could
did
do
you
me a
have
favor and
anything?
pass that
No?
down?
No, I
I'll
didn't.
take them and then I'll
Yeah.
just do a quick summary.
We have our comments too.
And I have comments, so.
All right, so we're back in regular session. We all set?
Yes.
Okay, so, I think we have one action item, from our executive session. Is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion to the full board that we accept the final superintendent evaluation for 2020 to 2021
Second.
as presented tonight.
Seconded by Laurel. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Get this tonight.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Lauren? Tim? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all.
Chris has one foot out the door. See you, Chris. I know.
Chris,
I'll
thanks for coming.
spell it.
Yeah.